We got a lot to cover today. I'm going to try and go as quickly as I can. There are certain things that I would have liked to put in that I'm going to have to do a follow-up video on. That'll be, I think the way that I'm going to finally work this out is I'm going to do not a summary, but a recap of each chapter as we go along. So that I can then do on my own and put in whatever dictionary stuff I got to put in. I've got to go to the dictionary on 2 or 3 things because they're mentioned in the actual Go Show itself today, in what we're reading. Okay, so let me start by knocking out those 3 things. Okay, the first one, you guys all know what Kyochi Myogo is, right? Okay, so what is Kyochi Myogo?
That's the question.
It's the reality. Okay, because remember last week when I talked about a samadhi, and I kept saying samadhi. Correct me whenever I say that. It's samadhi. If you read it out of the computer, you get diacritical. You get punctuation marks. So I said that a samadhi for us is when we achieve Kyochi Myogo, when we chant in front of the Gohonzon in Kyochi Myogo, which is basically a fusion with the Gohonzon. Okay, when you're fused with the Gohonzon, you're no longer common mortal Tom. Okay, you're a Buddha. You're talking as you're having a conversation with the Buddha wisdom that exists throughout the universe. As you're making you're actually making yourself aware, turning yourself on, turning on your Buddhahood that's been there all along, but it wasn't turned on. Okay, so the fusion of reality and wisdom. Let me give you the dictionary definition, and you've heard it before. Kyochi Myogo, the fusion of the objective reality or truth and the subjective wisdom to realize that truth, which is the Buddha nature, within one's life. Okay, so when you're chanting in fusion, okay, your Buddha nature is obviously activated, right? You're realizing that. You're chanting as, okay, again, I was going to start this whole conversation by mentioning to everybody about Mr. Koshikawa, okay? Mr. Koshikawa ended up becoming ill and we weren't even aware of it. And I don't know how many people, I know I chanted hours for him to be okay. And what was the thing that was bothering me the most about the fact that he was ill? He's already got Parkinson's, so I already, he's already not in, he's in elderly shape. But what was it that was going on that I just wouldn't tolerate? I remonstrated, I scolded some of the characters on the Gohonzon for days. He should not die of COVID.
Right.
COVID's not the way. No, COVID, I couldn't let him go out on COVID. No way. He can die of anything else, but he can't die of COVID. As soon as I heard that, I almost knew we're going to get him well. But we needed to all do it together. So for those of you that are watching the videos, understand that the person that is the reason that we all sit around this table and that you are listening to videos now of those conversations it's not a straightforward thing like he introduced us all and told us we all should stick together. It's not quite that at all, okay? But the point is that, the truth is that in the absence of him embracing me, you probably would have embraced me. I would have never had the format to be able to express my understanding, okay? Frankly speaking, so Mr. Koshikawa is my good friend. When we talk about a good friend in Buddhism, we're talking about, you got mentors are people that teach you a lot of things. A good friend is somebody that makes you bring it out of yourself, okay? That's what Mr. Koshikawa has been for me, and that's why I've been fighting for him ever since I heard that he somehow contracted COVID and was in very, very ill health. In fact, we were told doesn't look good, doesn't look like he's going to make it. He's made a recovery. So I just want to tell you, your Daimoku is so powerful. And what we're talking about right now explains that power so that you don't have to understand it theoretically. You can understand it literally as a Buddha, okay? And the truth is that your Daimoku reaches everywhere in the universe. And it's not bound by time as we understand time, because time's not real, right? Time is actually just an expression of the expansion of space. Okay, so the bottom line is that This fusion of reality and wisdom is Buddhahood. All right? So, it says, the fusion of the objective reality or truth and the subjective coming from your mind, wisdom to realize that truth, to perceive it and understand it, which is the Buddha nature inherent within one's life. May I have a tissue? Since enlightenment or Buddhahood is defined as the state in which one fully realizes the ultimate truth, the fusion of reality and wisdom means enlightenment. So if you can go into a samadhi to the Gohonzon, you're already the Buddha. There's nothing more for you to think of yourself as something less than the Buddha. All right? It says, Tentai discusses this principle in the Words and Phrases of the Lotus Sutra, in the annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra. Myolo associates Shakyamuni Buddha and many treasures Buddha as they are portrayed in the Treasure Tower 11th chapter of the Lotus Sutra with the fusion of reality and wisdom. This chapter describes Shakyamuni Buddha seated side by side with many treasures Buddha in the Treasure Tower. Myolo writes that these two Buddhas seated in this manner signify the fusion of reality and wisdom. Nichiren identifies the law that underlies the fusion of reality and wisdom. It was hidden in the depths of the 16th chapter, right? But only after the latter day had started could it be made available as the wisdom of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, and asserts that he embodied his enlightenment to that law, the fusion of reality and wisdom in the form of the Gohonzon, the object of devotion he established. In terms of the Buddhist practice for people in the latter day of the law, Nichiren maintained that when they chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo with deep faith in the Gohonzon, they achieve the fusion of reality and wisdom within their own lives and are thus able to manifest the Buddha nature and attain Buddhahood in their present form as they sit there in front of the Gohonzon. According to Nichiren, the Buddha nature constitutes reality, and faith in the Gohonzon, the embodiment of that nature, corresponds to wisdom. Do you understand? Right? Faith is what you're doing to qualify to be able to manifest that thing that is there, but you have to have the ability to access it. It's like the key that opens the door is your faith. If you're not carrying through the process of the teaching, how can you achieve what the teaching is teaching? Right? Okay, so Nichiren maintained that when they chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo with deep faith in the Gohonzon, they achieve the fusion of reality and wisdom within their own lives and are thus able to manifest the Buddha nature and attain Buddhahood. According to Nichiren, the Buddha nature consists of reality, and faith in the Gohonzon, the embodiment of that nature, corresponds to wisdom. Nichiren states reality means the true nature of all phenomena, and wisdom means the illuminating and manifesting of this nature, which can only be Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, right? Right. This is when the riverbed of reality is infinitely broad and deep. The water of wisdom will flow ceaselessly. When this reality and wisdom are fused, one attains Buddhahood in one's present form. What then are these two elements of reality and wisdom? They are simply the 5 characters of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And he says the 5 characters of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo there. Okay, so again, he does that all the time. They're completely interchangeable. When he's talking about this, the latter day of the law moment, it's got to be Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Okay? When he refers to Myoho Renge Kyo, he's talking about the same essence, but the one that existed for the former and the middle day of the law, and now it's the latter day of the law. You with me? Okay. So that's the fundamental, that's the fusion of reality and wisdom. And then he's going to talk about the Buddha of limitless joy here. So let me go into the Buddha of limitless joy. Who knows what Buddha of limitless joy is? You should know this. It's you. Okay, it's you. Jiju Yushin, right? Yeah, Jiju Yushin. Remember that Japanese word. Jiju Yushin, Nyorai. Okay? Buddha of limitless joy is broader in meaning than Buddha of self-enjoyment, which I could read to you, but it's not worth it. It doesn't pertain to us. Okay? And I will in whatever supplemental I do, just so you understand everything I'm reading. Again, trust me when I tell you this. Buddha of limitless joy is broader in meaning than Buddha of self-enjoyment, which is another translation of Jiyushi. Tentai identified the Buddha of limitless joy with the Buddha revealed in the essential teaching latter half of the Lotus Sutra, whom he identified as the Buddha originally endowed with the three bodies, the Dharma body, the reward body, and the manifested body. Here, these three bodies are regarded as the three integral aspects of a single Buddha. The fundamental truth or law to which he is enlightened, the Dharma body, the wisdom to realize it, the reward body, and the merciful actions to help people attain Buddhahood, the manifested body. See also the Buddha of beginningless time, which I won't get into also because it's too much. Dengyo then qualified this Buddha of limitless joy as this. The founder of Japanese Tendai school, Dengyo, is quoted in Nichiren's Real Aspect of the Gohonzon as having stated, a single moment of life comprising the 3,000 realms is itself the Buddha of limitless joy. This Buddha has forsaken august appearances. Dengyo identified the true identity of the Buddha of limitless joy as a single moment of life in which all 3,000 realms exist. Because that would include all 10th world issues, right? Okay. As a single moment of life, which permeates the entire universe. Whenever we talk about a single moment of life, you got to understand that that single moment of life isn't like a second of your life or a moment of your life. Whenever they're talking about single moment of life, they're talking about the state of a single moment of life. That single moment of life not only encompasses everything about you, but it encompasses everything about everything, because that single moment of life is shared with Saturn. That single moment of life is shared with Alpha Centauri. Okay? It's throughout the universe that single moment of life exists. Okay? So he says, this is Dengyo's description of the same Buddha Tentai mentioned. Nichiren identified the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life as the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that he realized within his own life. In other words, Nichiren established two concepts of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. One is Tentai's and the other his own. In his treatment of illness, Nichiren writes, there are two ways of perceiving the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. One is theoretical, as we always talk about theoretical Ichinen Sanzen, right? One is theoretical and the other actual, which we always refer to as actual Ichinen Sanzen, right? What Tentai and Dengyo practiced was theoretical, because it was still the Buddhism of harvest. But what I practice now is actual. Because what I practice is superior, and he's qualifying, it's the latter day, it is superior to the teachings of the former and middle. The difficulties attending it, trying to achieve it, are that much greater. The doctrine of Tentai and Dengyo was the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life of the theoretical teaching, while mine is that of the essential teaching. These two are as different as heaven is from earth. These two are as different as heaven is from earth. Tentai established the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life based on the true aspect of all phenomena, the phrase from the Expedient means second chapter of the Lotus Sutra. On the other hand, Nichiren stated in the opening of the eyes, the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is found in only one place, hidden in the depths of the lifespan of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Nege Arjuna and Vasubandhu were aware of it, but did not bring it forth into the light. Tentai Chiche alone embraced it and kept it ever in mind. Obviously, what Tentai embraced and kept ever in mind does not refer to the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life that he expounded publicly. Nichiren regarded it as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Nichikan, the 26th chief priest of Tentai, pardon me, Nichikan, the 26th high priest of the person that inscribed the Gohonzon that we chant to. The 26th chief priest of Taisekaji Temple, who is known for his commentaries on Nichiren's writings, interpreted Nichiren's teaching, saying that the Buddha of the essential teaching is not the eternal Buddha, but the Buddha who attained enlightenment at a fixed point in time. Does everybody understand what I just read? Let me read that again because I got it in bold. Nichikan, again, now we're talking about the Nichikan, the 26th high priest of Nichiren Shoshu, right?
Right.
Okay, who is known for his commentaries. We base the correct teaching on the revelations that he made. All right, says that the Buddha of the essential teaching is not the eternal Buddha, but when he says the Buddha of the essential teaching, he's talking about the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Okay, because what is that Buddha represented by? Numberless major world system dust particle kalpas. Okay, and what is the actual essential without beginning or end? Kuan. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. Nichikan qualified that the Buddha they're talking about isn't Shakyamuni from 2,000 years ago plus, but the Buddha who attained or any Buddha that attained Buddhahood at a fixed point in time. Because what is our Buddhahood based on? Yes, of course it's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, but what is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo? What is Kuan, which is beginningless? So, okay, so what is it? It's the original state. It's the original state, okay? Nothing precedes it, and it contains all things. It contains both cause and effect, okay? So somebody here would be attaining Buddhahood through cause and effect, okay? The Buddha of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra is not the eternal Buddha, but the Buddha who attained enlightenment at a fixed point in time, which is why I almost read you eternal Buddha back here. I already had it marked to do, the Buddha of beginningless time. Maybe I will flip over to this real quick. The Buddha of the essential teaching is not the eternal Buddha, but the Buddha who attained enlightenment at a fixed point in time. From this viewpoint, the Buddha of the essential teaching is not eternally endowed with the three bodies. Shakyamuni is not a bodhisattva of the earth. He's not an original disciple. From this viewpoint of Nichikan, okay, which he's sharing with us to perceive, not for the reason of putting out a bunch of bunk that we don't care about. This is the correct way to perceive it, frankly, is what this is saying, without saying it, okay? From this viewpoint, the body of the Buddha of the essential teaching is not eternally endowed with the three bodies, because eternally means what? Eternally endowed with the three bodies means what? They've always existed, okay? What does numberless major world system dust particle kalpas go back to? When Shakyamuni attained enlightenment. So he attained enlightenment at a fixed point in time. That's why Nichikan is qualifying. It can't be that Shakyamuni. And even at the point in time this has all been going on, don't forget the Lotus Sutra is already 1,000 years old at that point in time, and Shakyamuni's been gone for over 2, all right, in terms of published availability of it. I'm saying it's 1,000 years old. It didn't appear before, like, right after Shakyamuni. It wasn't like in the first bunch of sutras that they translated, okay? So, in contrast, Nichikan stated that the Buddha who embodies eternal life endowed with all of the 10 worlds and the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, whereby all Buddhas attain enlightenment, because we already read in the sutra says all Buddhas have attained enlightenment by serving other Buddhas. By serving other Buddhas, right? I read that out of the sutra book, right? Okay, so that's in the Expedient Means chapter. In contrast, Nichikan stated that the Buddha who embodies eternal life, endowed with all of the 10 worlds and the law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, whereby all Buddhas attain enlightenment, is originally endowed with the 3 bodies, since time without beginning. Since what? Since Kuan Ganjo. Okay, and that Buddha is what Nichiren called the Buddha of beginningless time, which I'll read you next, which is different than the Buddha of the lifespan chapter. Okay, not of the lifespan chapter, the Buddha of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni still. This is qualifying out now the special aspect, which Nichiren's going to touch upon himself, of Nichiren's own life relative to everything else. He doesn't qualify himself as being supernatural. He qualifies himself as being the first. Okay? That's the only difference between you and him. He's the teacher. Everybody else is a disciple or a disciple of a disciple. Okay? All right. So, it is originally endowed with 3 bodies, since time without beginning, and that Buddha is what Nichiren, okay, it's a Buddha beginningless time. Nichikan, it concluded that Nichiren embodied that Buddha, even though the Daishonin talks about the Buddha beginningless time, and he says, and I'm the Buddha beginningless time. He just describes what that Buddha would be, and it doesn't take much of a brain to figure it out if you read everything a lot. So he says, Nichikan concluded that Nichiren embodied that Buddha. Also see Buddha beginningless time. Also Buddha of self-enjoyment. I'm not going to do that, but I'll go ahead and read you Buddha beginningless time. Also eternal Buddha, because we're going to talk about this. Also eternal Buddha, original Buddha. We talk about this every week. Original Buddha, eternal Buddha, or true Buddha. That's why we're called true Buddhists, because we're all disciples of this Buddha. Okay, this Buddha that doesn't use expedient means. That opens the door immediately with the truth. Okay? It's the correct Hoben, which we'll get into when we go into the 3 kinds of Hoben. All right? Also, eternal Buddha, original Buddha, or true Buddha, the Buddha who has been eternally endowed with the 3 bodies, the Dharma body, the reward body, and the manifested body, thereby embodying the eternal law, or the ultimate truth of life and the universe. This term appears in Nichiren's writing given to a successor, Nikko, titled On the Mystic Principle of True Cause, which is the one Gosho. It's too heavy. It refers to the mystic law, uncreated and eternal. So it couldn't just be numberless major world system dust particle kalpas back as a point of origin, which is what Shakyamuni qualifies Sanzen Jintingo as when he was the 16th son of great universal wisdom excellence, and talks about major world system dust particle kalpas. But then when he talks about in the 16th chapter, when Maitreya asks him, how could you have trained all these bodhisattvas of the earth, these bodhisattvas that appeared that were the bodhisattvas of the earth, that's when he says, you know, I've been around for a lot longer than even what I told you before. If you take all those major worlds, those dust particles from that major world that I said divide into dust particles, turn all of them into worlds, grind them up into dust, and then go distribute all that dust a kalpa a piece. Goes, it's farther back than that. And I have yet to use up 2/3, even a third of the total amount of time that it'll be, I'll exist as an entity. It refers, beginning, and states that the mystic laws lies in the depth of the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra. Nichikan, 26th chief priest of Taisekaji Temple, identified Nichiren as that Buddha based on the fact that Nichiren was the first to spread the mystic law. According to Nichiren, the Japanese term Jijuyushi literally means the body that is freely received and used. Now, does that not kind of talk about if you're already a Buddha, okay, you've always been a Buddha, and yet you manifest this in this world as a common mortal for the sake of revealing your Buddhahood to help others that haven't been able to attain the way, to guide them. All right? Aren't you using the body that you manifested at birth, freely received and used for the sake of the propagation of the law? Okay, you're not a normal 6th realm person. You're a 10th realm person. Do you understand what I mean? Okay. So, the Buddha of beginningless time is also called the Buddha of limitless joy. Is also called. So, all Nam-myoho Renge-kyo thus come once are Buddhas of limitless joy. We're just not the Buddha of we're not the original teacher. We're the original disciples. Do you get it? And we have no separation between us and the original teacher. We are identical. We are identical with the original teacher. Do you understand that? That's why we can be the same Buddha that he is. That's why I can say we can be described as, with this life state, we are also Buddhas of limitless joy. There's only one Buddha of beginningless time. All of us that achieve enlightenment in the latter day of the law through Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are Buddhas of limitless joy. Let me finish this. The Buddha of limitless joy, indicating the Buddha who freely derives boundless joy from the law while enjoying absolute freedom and directly expounds the law that he realized within his own life. Now, when you function in the Sahe world as a Buddha, doing shakabuku, expressing your Buddha nature through your manner in which you represent it, you're doing exactly all of those things, are you not? Okay, so you have no limitations. Freely, and you have the freedom to do it, you just don't think you can. You don't trust yourself to be able to. You are already the Buddha. You don't have to wait to get there. So he says that he realized within his own life. There is no Buddha that doesn't go through the 6th stage of practice. And what is the 6th stage of practice? And when one, in fact, at last realizes that one is a Buddha, then one is a Buddha. Okay? So that he realized within his own life is the only way you attain Buddhahood in your present form. You have to realize it, that you are the Buddha exactly as you are. Okay? Because the teaching says so. And it all makes sense, and you empower your life in such a way that there's no question about whether or not that's the case. In the lifespan chapter, Shakyamuni revealed his attainment of Buddhahood, numberless major world system dust particle kalpas in the past. No matter how far in the past, however, it occurred at a fixed point in time and therefore is not eternal, because eternal means there's no beginning or no end. All right. However, it occurred at a fixed point in time and therefore is not eternal. Moreover, he did not clarify the law or cause that enabled him to attain enlightenment at that time. In contrast, the Buddha of beginningless time is eternal without beginning and represents eternal life endowed both with the 9 world, with both the 9 worlds and Buddhahood. In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren states, this is the doctrine of original cause and original effect. It reveals that the 9 worlds are all present in beginningless Buddhahood and that Buddhahood is inherent in the beginningless 9 worlds. This is the true mutual possession of the 10 worlds, not the theoretical one. The true 100 worlds and 1,000 factors, the true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Here, as Nichiren has described it, from page 235 of the volume 1 of the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. Here, original cause refers to the beginningless 9 worlds, and original effect to beginningless Buddhahood. What Nichiren defined as the true 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is the original state of life. Is the original state of life, which is beginningless. It's not a point in time. To manifest this state of life is the attainment of Buddhahood for all people. Because once one person can do it, everybody else that's also a person can do the same thing. That's why we call him the original teacher. That's what makes him significant. Once one person did it, now it's actual. It's not theoretical anymore. Somebody's done it. It's doable. Okay? For all people, Nichiren established the practice that enables everyone to achieve this by inscribing the Gohonzon, or the object of devotion, that embodies this original state of life, and prescribing the invocation of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, and then I think I'm down to the last one. Yeah, there's 3 kinds of wisdom that he's going to talk about here, and he's not going to explain it. And there's no little dictionary thing. What do they call that?
No.
No, at the end of a book, they'll give you all the words you might not know. Yeah, whatever. What are those called?
Summary?
No, there's not summary. They're called not a little thesaurus. Come on. You went to Columbia, you should know.
Yes, it's an explanation of each time.
Yeah, okay, at any rate.
Yes.
Okay, 3 kinds of wisdom. He's also going to mention that. 3 kinds of wisdom explained in the treatise of great perfection of wisdom, which is Nege Arjuna. They are as follows: the wisdom to understand the universal aspect of phenomena. This is the wisdom of persons of the 2 vehicles, voice hearers and cause awakened ones, who understand the truth of non-substantiality, or the non-substantial nature of existence, but they don't understand Buddhahood or Buddhist wisdom or compassion. The wisdom to understand the various paths to enlightenment. Bodhisattvas possess this wisdom, which enables them to understand the individual aspects of existence, or the truth of temporary existence, as well as the various paths to enlightenment, so that they may save others accordingly. 3, the wisdom to understand both the universal aspect and individual aspects of phenomena. This is the Buddha wisdom, which perceives both the universal aspect and the universal aspects of all phenomena, or the middle way, as well as the various paths to enlightenment. In Tentai's teaching, one can obtain the 3 kinds of wisdom simultaneously through meditation aimed at perceiving the unification of 3 truths in a single mind. What's the 3 truths? Non-substantiality, temporary existence, and the middle way. Okay, those are the 3 truths. Okay. In Tentai's teaching, one can obtain the 3 kinds of wisdom simultaneously through meditation aimed at perceiving the unification of the 3 kinds of wisdom in a single mind. That's bringing voice hearer, cause awakened one, and bodhisattva together to be a Buddha. All right? That's the 3 chapters into 1, whatever. Hence, it is called the 3 kinds of wisdom in a single mind. Specifically, through perception of the truth of non-substantiality, one obtains the wisdom of the 2 vehicles. Through perception of the truth of temporary existence, one acquires the wisdom of bodhisattvas. And through the perception of the truth of the middle way, one gains the Buddha wisdom. Okay, everybody with me on all that? Probably not, but at least I know you know where to find it if you ever watch the video again. Okay, so let's go to page 16. Where we left off last time was the introduction opening chapter of the OTT. And we left off on point 5. So, continuing. Point 5. Now again, when I read this, this is from the Lotus Sutra, right? This thing that's in bold. Point 5, the words, the light reaching downward as far as the Avicii hell. Avicii hell. I always pronounce these according to Japanese and they're not. So Avicii hell, pardon me. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, this is the middle of page 16 of the OTT. This passage shows that that beings in all of the 10 worlds can attain Buddhahood. This passage makes clear that Devadatta has attained Buddhahood. In the chapter following the treasure chapter, the matter of Devadatta's attaining Buddhahood is further explained in the so-called 2 admonitions, which are described down here as 2 of the 5 proclamations in the 2 consecutive chapters, Treasure Tower and Devadatta. In the former, Shakyamuni admonishes the Bodhisattvas 3 times to spread the Lotus Sutra in the evil age after his passing. In the Devadatta chapter, Shakyamuni shows how Devadatta and the Dragon King's daughter attained Buddhahood through the powers of the sutra. Okay, so in the Treasure Tower chapter, it's already qualified that Devadatta has already attained Buddhahood. Now, when it says that Devadatta has already attained Buddhahood, what does it really mean, though? That he comes out as a Buddha with no repercussions for all of the things that he did to be in hell in the first place? No, the world of Buddha, the 10th world, has been opened in his life. He now has the ability to be a Buddha, which is the same thing as becoming a Buddha, because once you have the ability to be a Buddha, you will become a Buddha. It's just a matter of lifetimes. Do you understand? Okay, because you've already gotten to the 51st stage of whatever, of the 52 stages at that point in time, correct? Okay, so the two... in the chapter following the Treasure Tower chapter, the matter of Devadatta's attaining Buddhahood is further explained in the so-called 2 admonitions. But at the time represented by the present passage in chapter 1, Devadatta has already attained Buddhahood. The word reaching refers to the ray of light emitted by the Buddha from the tuft of white hair between his eyebrows, which one of the special 32 characteristics or whatever. The ray of light from the white hair is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And what did he do with that ray of light in the earlier part of the introduction chapter? Do you guys remember from when I read it? I read the summary. I remember when I read the summary, and he was able to use that tuft of light. He was able to illuminate all kinds of other worlds. And in those other worlds, they could see everybody. Okay? And then they were all taken with an awareness that they had never known, which was what? Not just Earth, number one. They're living beings throughout all of the worlds. Okay? So it was a big eye-opener for them. All right, in the introduction chapter, to see all of these other worlds. So what does he do? Is he's exposing with his, he's using expedient means to teach them. The expedient means of illuminating these innumerable worlds, which again, in terms of the physical realm, it's not real. It's a metaphor. Okay, or a simile. He says, the word reaching refers to the ray of light emitted by the Buddha from the tuft of white hair between his eyebrows. That's reaching. So you'll get to it here. This is all about when we pray for people that are dead, or we pray for people that we think couldn't attain Buddhahood. They didn't attain Buddhahood. We don't really think of them as Buddhists, but Buddhism says that they were Buddhists since Kuan-ganjo. Okay? So this is the link of that reality. Let me read it then. The word reaching refers to the ray of light emitted by the Buddha from the tuft of white hair between his eyebrows. The ray of light from the white hair is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which reaches everywhere in the universe every time you say it, which is beyond your ability to comprehend how it could. But that's why there's nothing that you can't reach through prayer. There is nothing that you can't reach through prayer. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is universal solvent for all things that need to be changed. All right? The passage immediately following that says that the ray of light reached upward to the Akanistha heaven represents the truth of non-substantiality. That this says it reached downward as far as the Avicii hell represents the truth of temporary existence, and the light from the tuft of white hair represents the middle way. From this, it is clear that beings in the 10 worlds all attain Buddhahood at the same time. How is that? From this it is clear that all beings of the 10 worlds, in the 10 worlds, can all attain Buddhahood at the same time. It's the original state. That's what he's referring to. All these expedient means that Shakyamuni's using are, of course, Shakyamuni's not the original teacher. Okay? He can only teach to people that have the capacity to deal with the former and the middle day. Okay? So again, from this it is clear that beings in the 10 worlds can all attain Buddhahood at the same time. We all have the original state within us. Okay? In the Devadatta chapter, we are told that's why we are all Buddhas, true Buddhas. We can all say Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. We all live in the latter day of the law. We live in the correct age. We have the correct teacher, the correct teaching. It doesn't matter what world we're in. We can be in hell. It doesn't matter. We're still Buddhists. Do you understand what they're trying to say now? Okay. In the Devadatta chapter, we are told that Devadatta will be adorned with the title Heavenly King Buddha. So here's a guy that, you know, Devadatta, worst guy in the world. He's going to become a Buddha. If we consider the time of the attainment of Buddhahood from the two aspects of environment and life, then we see that in the passage on reaching downward as far as the Avicii hell, the beam of light, right? The attainment of Buddhahood is being explained in terms of the environment. That is hell. It's explaining that hell is part of the perfect teaching. It's still part of the 10 worlds. The 10 worlds all contain the world of Buddhahood. There is a hell. That's a hell of Buddha. Do you understand? Yeah. Okay. So let me say that again, because that's very difficult to perceive as how could it be. But that's why he always says, that means that this great good thing is hell. Or this great good thing is a bad thing. And you're going, what are you talking about? He's teaching you, don't start putting distinctions. That's delusion. You have to all see this as either the manifest state of the enlightened nature or the manifest state of fundamental darkness. It's one or the other. Okay? The occupier is the Buddha. All right? All right, so if we consider the time of the attainment of Buddhahood from the two aspects of environment and life, then we see that in the passage on reaching downward as far as the Avicii hell, the attainment of Buddhahood is being explained in terms of the environment that is hell. And in the Devadatta chapter, when we are told that Devadatta will be called Heavenly King, thus come one, the attainment of Buddhahood is being explained in terms of the life of the individual, the life that does not die at death. Do you understand? Because when he's talking about when he's going to become Heavenly King, thus come one, it's not even at the moment that, you know, it's at a future time, right? It's a prediction, actually. Okay, so, but in the case of both environment and life, the attainment of Buddhahood is accomplished through the wonderful law, through the same law. The same law is the power that's governing both circumstances, both substantiality and non-substantiality. That's why we end up with the middle way. Do you get it? All right. Now, when Nichiren and his followers perform ceremonies for the deceased, which we do every day, right? Reciting the Lotus Sutra and chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the ray of light from the Daimoku we chant. We're also Buddhas with the 32 features. We just don't take on those august appearances, right? So we don't have a tuft of white hair, but the essential nature of the same reality of being able to beam that light down into hell, to reach Devadatta, is the same one that you can apply to mom, to dad, to every bad person you've ever known. Okay? To everybody that needed the mercy from somebody to perceive that there was something good about them. And you do because you understand them as a human being. All right? And you have the mercy and compassion of the Buddha. So he says, now when Nichiren and his followers perform ceremonies for the deceased, this is page 17 in the middle, reciting the Lotus Sutra and chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the ray of light from the Daimoku reaches all the way to the hell of incessant suffering and makes it possible for them to attain Buddhahood then and there. Who you pray about as a Buddha that can do the same thing that he's talking about. Okay? This is the origin of the prayers. This is the origin of the prayers for the transference of merit for the deceased. Our parents may have not been able to embrace the Gohonzon, but they don't have to because we do. We can assure the same effect in their future existences that we are assured of ours. And who bestows that upon those parents? We do. We do. That's an act of filial piety that cannot be matched. Especially if you had shitty parents and you have the compassion to see right through the shit, okay? And to see them as human beings that were flawed, that had things that were beyond their ability to deal with, okay? All of us are good people if we can just scrape the crap off of the outside, okay? So this is the origin of the prayers for the transference of merit for the deceased. Even if persons who had no faith, and this is Nichiren's teaching here, even if persons who had no faith in the Lotus Sutra have fallen into the hell of incessant suffering as practitioners. Just why? How can we do that? Because we're just like him. We are Buddhas in our present form. We are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, thus come ones. Even if persons who had no faith in the Lotus Sutra have fallen into the hell of incessant suffering, as practitioners of the Lotus Sutra, their filial offspring, us chanting for mom and dad who have gone to Ku, may offer them the ray of light from the Daimoku. Okay? Which is why I know my mother, which I could never figure out for the longest time. How could I be the Buddha? How could I have such a relationship with Nam-myoho Renge-kyo? My mom's such a Christian person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And probably the only reason I was ever able to become a Buddhist is because she died when she was 40. Or else her influence on my life would have probably precluded that. I would have never run away to California and been a hippie. No way. Okay? But by virtue of that query, what about mom? She never heard Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. I used to cry to the Gohonzon about this before I understood this. I am the Buddha. I can bestow upon her what she did not have the power to bestow upon herself. That's why I am a filial child. I'm a filial offspring. And I have supernatural powers. I have the supernatural powers of the Thus Come One. This is what Shakyamuni did for Devadatta. I can do the same thing for my mother, for my brother, for anyone that I have the presence of mind and compassion to think of and to go into a samadhi over the creation of that relationship. This isn't a passing thought. That's why I have lists of dead people on the front of the Butsudan. Because it's real easy to forget about people after they're gone. Even when you really love them and you're really sincere about wanting to think of them all the time, it's very easy for that to fade and to fade and to fade. So all those dead people are up there because I say hello to them every day. Okay? How could this principle of the Daimoku enabling one to attain Buddhahood be any different than it is in the case of the persons who have faith in the sutra? So he's saying, how could it not apply to you? It's got to apply it to you. It's got to apply to you. He said, trust me, Nichiren, I'm telling you, my disciples, it applies to you.
Yes.
This doesn't apply to me, the mentor. It applies to you. Therefore, Nichiren is led to conclude. What's he qualifying here then? Everything that he's saying is coming from his enlightenment. Okay? His ability to perceive the truth, capital T, capital T. Therefore, Nichiren is led to conclude that this passage on the ray of light reaching downward as far as the Avicii hell is intended to depict the way in which the Buddha emitting a ray of light makes it possible for Devadatta to attain Buddhahood and to show us how we can do the same. I just added that last little bit, but that's what he's requalifying there. Okay? He says, I've come to the conclusion, I can do this, therefore my disciples, you can as well. All right? Point 6. I'm sorry this is taking so long. Point 6, the words why from the white tuft between the eyebrows of our leader and teacher. Point 6, the words why from the white tuft between the eyebrows of our leader and teacher. The commentary, Words and Phrases, Volume 3, says, so he's still talking about Tentai, that's why they qualified that commentary is not annotations. He says, therefore, since he preaches the law, enters into samadhi, and is able to lead others, he has already been designated a leader and teacher. Who does that refer to? For sure, Nichiren. I'll read it again. The commentary therefore says, therefore, since he preaches the law, enters into samadhi, which means he meditates, he does, okay, and is able to lead others.
That's us.
Okay, because he's learning, he's expressing things he already knows. He doesn't need to do that. You know, he does it because he wants to help them.
Right.
Okay, he has already been designated a leader and teacher. Who's that referring to?
Us.
Us. Us.
Yes.
Us. If we're practicing correctly.
Yes.
Us. Those of the, okay, I should say it more succinctly. Those who are of the same mind as Nichiren.
Yes.
I say us because I believe we all are.
Yes.
Of the same mind as Nichiren.
It's our mission.
Page 18, top. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, here the words leader and teacher refer to Shakyamuni Buddha. Preaching the law refers to the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra, and entering into samadhi refers to the samadhi of the origins of the original meanings. Generally speaking, there are two types of leaders and teachers. Bad leaders and teachers and good leaders and teachers. Examples of bad leaders and teachers are Honen, Kobo, Jikaku, and Chisho. Examples of good leaders and teachers are Tentai and Dingyo. Now that we have entered into the latter day of the law, Nichiren and his followers act as good leaders and teachers. The law they preach is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, not the Lotus Sutra. Because this is, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is the Lotus Sutra of the latter day of the law. And the samadhi they enter is the firmly fixed state of mind of one who accepts and upholds the Lotus Sutra. One who practices correctly in the latter day with faith. Do you hear? Okay. You should pay special attention to the word able in the statement, he is able to lead others, and consider its meaning. The passage in the Emerging from the Earth chapter that reads, foremost leaders and guiding teachers, refers to the same type of persons, plural. It means, in effect, those persons who preach the law to all the people of the country of Japan in order to lead them. What is he talking about? You should pay special attention to the word able in the statement, he is able to lead others, and consider its meaning. He's saying, consider the meaning of this phrase, he is able to lead others. What is the significance of he is able to lead others? Why is he able to lead others? Is the he just Nichiren? No. What? Why are those plural persons able? He says you should pay special attention to the word able. Is able just knowledge?
No.
No. It's based on action as well. is faith. Faith, but it's based on everything. It's faith, practice, study, right? The able aspect is the fact that we're bodhisattvas of the earth. We're already Buddhas. We manifest our Buddhahood for the simple process of bringing other people along to realize they can do the same thing. Okay? We're Buddhas of the original state. We're the Buddhas that I just talked about. Yeah. Okay? All right. So, but the significance of what separates these Buddhas from other Buddhas is the mind that they share. They share the mind of Nichiren, the original teacher. Oh. Okay? Not the expedient means of Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni didn't teach anything but expedient means. Right. Other than for the time period of former and the middle day of the law. Everything Shakyamuni taught in the latter day of the law is expedient at this point in time. Yeah. Lotus Sutra's already lost its power. Point 7, the last one in introduction. Point 7, the words heavenly drums sounded of themselves. The commentary, words and phrases, he's again making sure you understand he's talking about Tentai. The commentary, words and phrases, volume 3 says, heavenly drums sounded of themselves is symbolic, Nichiren says, is symbolic of one who takes it upon oneself to preach without being asked. We preach. Have we been asked to preach? Yeah. No. We just started doing this for ourselves. Did we not? Did we wait for someone to preach to us? No. Okay? And now when we preach, we do it without being asked, right? Because we understand what we're saying. We're not afraid to preach. We're not afraid we're going to commit slander by telling the truth. All right? Okay. Tentai says heavenly drums sounded of themselves is symbolic of one who takes it upon oneself to preach without being asked. Nichiren says, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says, this passage praises the way in which the auspicious omens appearing in this land and other lands are all the same. One, because remember Maitreya is telling Manjushri, hey, I saw this happen once again, and there is shook in 6 different ways, and yada, 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 right? Okay, so he says, auspicious, those are the auspicious occasions or omens appearing in this land and other lands are all the same. One who takes it upon oneself to preach without being asked refers to the fact that Shakyamuni, thus come one, has taken it upon himself to preach the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law without being asked. Now Nichiren and his followers also take it on themselves to preach without being asked. When they declare that the Nimbutsu leads to the hell of incessant suffering, that Zen is the teaching of the heavenly devil, that the true word will ruin the nation, and that the precepts is traitorous, they are taking it upon themselves to preach without being asked. What was that? Those were the 4 dictums. Do the 4 dictums exist in Shakyamuni's time? No. No. Nimbutsu is a teaching from Buddhism. Okay? Zen is a teaching that was derived from Buddhism. True word is not, that exists. But what I'm saying is, Nichiren and his followers also take it upon themselves to preach without being asked. When they declare that all the other teachings are to be abandoned. Okay? Because what is this? These are the 4 major ones right here. Nimbutsu, Zen, true word, and precepts. Those are the 4 that are in Japan giving him shit at the very moment that he's doing all this stuff, right? Okay. They are taking it upon themselves to preach without being asked, because what do we say about those 4 schools? They will lead you to hell. It's the latter day of the law. Get away from them, ignore and abandon them. Right? Okay, and we don't wait to be asked about that. We say, whoa, shakabuku time. You're not, that's slander. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's preaching without being asked, stopping slander and correcting someone. All right? If somebody's teaching me nimbutsu, I say, hey, you know what? You're full of shit. Okay? The same thing for precepts, anything else. Anything other than Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Nichiren. Okay? Nichiren's Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The Buddhism of sowing only. Yeah. That's it. Everything else is no longer the right time, folks. And I got to tell you the truth, because I'm that kind of Buddha. Okay? All right, so when we out all of these incorrect thoughts, we are in fact taking it upon ourselves to preach without being asked. We're preaching the truth. We're replacing error with correction. All right? Because we do so, and only because we do so. This is why Nichiren Shu people always talk about how they're all happy and they don't get any obstacles. You want to know why they don't get the obstacles we get? Their practice is bullshit. They don't practice. They don't. They don't live as Buddhists. They don't preach without being asked. They wait to be preached to. Yeah. Right. Okay? That's what this is saying. They are taking it upon themselves, preaching that because they do so, the three types of powerful enemies have appeared on the scene. Because they do that, they have to be persecuted. They are persecuted by the three powerful enemies. Nobody that's not about to become a Buddha or actually is actualizing their Buddhahood ever sees Sancho Shima, the three powerful enemies. Okay? Pardon me. The heavenly drums. Okay, the three types of powerful enemies have appeared on the same. I'm conflating two different things. Because they do so, the three types of powerful enemies have appeared on the scene. The three types of powerful enemies are bad priests, slanderous people, bad priests, and bad sages, right? All right. The heavenly drums are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Heavenly drums sounded of themselves. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo sounds of itself. It already exists. It's not created by being realized by Nichiren. It's the original state. The heavenly drums are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Of themselves means that they are unhindered by any obstacles. Sounded refers to the sound of the chanting of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. In another sense, we may say that when all living beings freely send forth their words and voices, this is a case of taking it upon themselves to preach without being asked. Taking it upon themselves to preach, we may say, refers even to the voices and cries of the wrongdoers being punished by the wardens of hell, to the famished cries of the hungry spirits, or to the voices of all living beings as moment by moment they are beset by the three poisons, greed, anger, and foolishness. All these voices, the three powerful enemies is what I was talking about before. All these voices, in essence, are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So what did he just qualify there again? In another sense, we may say that when all living beings freely send forth their words and voices, this is the case of taking it upon themselves to preach without being asked. They're living beings. Do they have a Buddha nature? Yes. We may say it refers to even the voices and cries of the wrongdoers being punished by the wardens of hell, to the famished cries of the hungry spirits, or to the voices of all three beings as moment by moment they are beset by the three poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness. All these voices, in essence are Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because everything in essence is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? Yeah. These are all undesirable things. You wouldn't think of them as Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, but he's saying, no, everything is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. The heavenly drums are the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo, the essential teaching, and the theoretical teaching. The heavenly drums are the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo, the essential teaching and the theoretical teaching. The first 14 chapters and the second 14 chapters. Heavenly refers to the highest principle, which is comparable to heaven, means Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Taking it upon oneself to preach refers to the preaching of the law by the Buddha of limitless joy, which you will be at the point in time you're preaching Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, right? On words and phrases. So this is Myolo adding, says, when words and phrases states that this is symbolic of one who takes it upon oneself to preach without being asked, it refers to the opening of the Expedient Means chapter, where the Buddha arises from his samadhi and addresses Shariputra, delivering praise now in extended language, now in abbreviated form. He also uses the auspicious omens of this land and other lands, as well as things describable in words and indescribable. Let me say that sentence again. He also uses the auspicious omens of this land and other lands, like when he shoots the beam, right? As well as things describable in words and indescribable. Sometimes he speaks of the reality, sometimes of the wisdom to understand it. These reality and wisdom, Kyochi Myogo, right? The fusion of reality and wisdom. These reality and wisdom are the root and foundation, fusion with the Gohonzon, fusion with the original state, fusion with beginningless time, fusion with the original teachers, fusion with the mind of Nichiren, okay, is the root and foundation of the entire Lotus Sutra. Even though he wasn't born until many hundreds of years, a couple thousand years later. Do you follow? Yeah. All right. The crux of the 5 periods of teaching. Who qualified the 5 periods of teaching? Tiantai. Okay, so they're not qualified in the Lotus Sutra as here are my 5 periods of teaching by Shakyamuni, right? Therefore, this matter must not be approached lightly because it's the essence of everything. And what is the matter that he's really talking about? What in the passage of commentary here is called root and foundation of the entire sutra, the crux of the 5 periods of preaching. This is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And there is no separation between Nichiren and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. All right? Okay, now we're ready for chapter 2. And I think about all I'm going to get out is the description, is the Expedient Means, Expedient Means chapter. I might start back in, I don't know. Let's see what happens here. I don't want to keep you guys here too long. All right. This is on page 171 of the dictionary. The Expedient Means chapter. The second chapter of the Lotus Sutra, in which Shakyamuni Buddha reveals that the purpose of a Buddha's advent in the world, okay, and listen carefully to what he's saying. The second chapter of the Lotus Sutra, in which Shakyamuni Buddha reveals that the purpose of a Buddha's advent in the world, which would mean you and you, all of us, right? Yeah. Okay. Advent in the world is to lead people to enlightenment. So the purpose that we were born was to help other people become Buddhas just like we are. Yeah. All right? Shakyamuni shows that all people have the potential for Buddhahood. Namely that Buddhahood is not separate from ordinary people, but is inherent in their lives. It is the principal chapter of the theoretical teaching, first half of the Lotus Sutra, and one of the two pivotal chapters of the entire sutra, the other being the lifespan 16th chapter, the core of the essential latter half. Okay? Now I want to go back a sentence though, because this is qualifying in the dictionary, but they're saying it in a way that it could be confusing a little bit here. Because it says, it is, Shakyamuni shows that all people have the potential for Buddhahood. Yeah, he shows it, but it took Tentai. It wasn't so self-evident in what Shakyamuni said, or what Kumarajiva transcribed into Mandarin, okay, that everybody picked up on it immediately, okay? So again, it's not that simple, all right? All right. So Shakyamuni shows that all people have the potential. Yes, what he said was able to be extrapolated into that reality, and it's very understandable that that is the basis of that. What is said, that is that reality. Shakyamuni saying it and what it was clarified as are the same thing. All right? Okay. Shakyamuni shows that all people have the potential for Buddhahood, namely that Buddhahood is not separate from ordinary people, but is inherent in their lives. But that's about the future prediction of enlightenment in other people, right? That's no people on the spot being Buddhists. It is the principal chapter of the theoretical teaching, first half of the Lotus Sutra, and one of the two pivotal chapters of the entire sutra, the other being the lifespan 16th chapter, the core of the essential teaching latter half. At the beginning of the second chapter, Shakyamuni arises from the deep meditation called the Samadhi of the origin of original meanings, and addresses Shariputra, declaring that the wisdom of the Buddhas is infinitely profound and immeasurable, far beyond the comprehension of voice hearers and cause awakened ones. Only Buddhas, he says, can realize the true aspect of all phenomena, which he says right in the portion that we recite as part of Gongyo, right? Only Buddhas, he says, can realize this true aspect of all phenomena, which consists of the 10 factors: the appearance, nature, entity, power, influence, internal cause, relation, latent effect, manifest effect, and the consistency from beginning to end. This revelation that all living beings of the 10 worlds are innately endowed with and can manifest the true aspect identified as the 10 factors of life establishes a theoretical basis for the subsequent assertion that all people have the potential to attain Buddhahood. So you understand what that just said? It said, Tom just qualified that beforehand. It doesn't really say that as Shakyamuni saying that, but Tentai and all those other people we constantly refer to qualify that that's exactly what it says, and there is no difference between the way both things are said. Can it have the potential? Based on this passage, Tentai established the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Shakyamuni then reveals that the Buddhas make their advent for one great reason: to enable all people to attain the same enlightenment as themselves. According to the chapter, their purpose is to open the door of Buddha wisdom to all living beings, to show the Buddha wisdom to all living beings, to cause living beings to awaken to the Buddha wisdom, and to induce living beings to enter the path of Buddha wisdom. To open, to show, to cause, and to awaken, and to induce them to enter the path. Shakyamuni goes on to state that the three vehicles, or the teachings for voice hearers, cause awakened ones, and bodhisattvas, are not ends in of themselves, but are expedient means by which he leads people to the one Buddha vehicle. This concept is referred to as the replacement of the three vehicles with the one vehicle. We all go through stages of voice hearer, cause awakened one, and bodhisattva. We are all three ourselves, okay? And so that's the overview of the Expedient Means chapter. Do you want me to keep going? Do you want me to start in? You want me to stop, and we'll start on the Expedient Means chapter next week?
Okay.
Because when we start on the Expedient Means chapter next week, I'm going to read all of it. Now, if you want me to read 1 point or 2 points to try and reduce the amount of time you're going to be here, we can.
Total 8 points.
I got about another 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and start it.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me just do point 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Point 1 is a couple pages anyhow.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do point 1.
Okay.
Point 1, regarding the expedient means chapter, translated as page 20. Okay. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Point 1, regarding the expedient means chapter, translator's note, according to the words and phrases, tentai, there are 3 types of hoben, or expedient means. The first is known as hoyu hoben, or adaptations of the law, expedient means. Teachings that were preached in accordance with people's capacities and tastes. They stress the truth of impermanence and the severance of attachment to the phenomenal world and correspond to Hinayana and early Mahayana. The second is called Notsu Hoben, or expedient means that can lead one in teachings. Teachings that the Buddha preached as a gateway to the true teaching. The third is called Himyo Hoben, or the secret and wonderful expedient means, which corresponds to the ultimate truth. Secret and wonderful refers to the fact that the Buddha concealed the truth for the first more than 40 years of his preaching life, explaining it only in the Lotus Sutra. Unlike the first 2 expedients, the third type not only leads people to the truth, but simultaneously contains the truth. And do you understand why he makes that distinction about that then? At that point, the translator, is the third point an expedient means? It is if you look at it one way, but in fact it is not. It's the truth. It's not an expedient means. It's the truth. Okay? I have a friend from Chicago who said, well, if there are 3 kinds of hoben, why don't we do like all 3, Nyose So, hoben this and hoben that. I'm going like, because it's not part of Gongyo. It's not necessary for us to do all 3, because those are expedient means. We've already blown off expedient means by saying Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. We're already Buddhists. Okay? We're not going through the process of concentration and insight in order to achieve that, correct? All right, so the important thing, unlike the first 2 expedients, it's also an expedient means. It's the 3 expedient means, 3 types of expedient means, he says, right? But it also contains the truth, so it's not an expedient means. All right? Unlike the first 2 expedients, the third type not only leads people to the truth, but simultaneously contains the truth, is the truth. Words and phrases, Tentai, volume 3 states, the Ho of Hoben, expedient means secret. The Ben means wonderful. Wonderful leads to secret. This is identical with the truth, which is kept secret. When we examine what is meant by the priceless jewel sewn into the lining of the man's robe, chapter 8, prophecy of enlightenment for the 500 disciples, we see that it is in no way different from the jewel in the top knot of the king, chapter 14, peaceful practices. And the man who is called a hired laborer is in fact no different from or apart from the rich man's son, chapter 4, belief and understanding. All of these similes point to what is secret, what is wonderful, what is coming, right? When are these chapters all occurring? Let me read it again. Okay, chapter 8, chapter 14, and chapter 4. Where are all those? What's significant about those 4 chapters? Those 3 chapters, 4 chapters. Three chapters, pardon me. They're all in the theoretical teaching. That's why he's qualifying them as being different than you know, the essential teaching. It says this again. Wonderful, pardon me, Words and Phrases, which is Tiantai, volume 3, bottom of page 20. The Ho of Hoban, expedient means secret. The Ben means wonderful. Wonderful leads to secret. This is identical with the truth, which is kept secret. When we examine what is meant by the priceless jewel sewn into the lining of the man's robe, prophecy of it, it's Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Do you follow what I'm saying? He's using these similes in the theoretical teaching before he gets to the essential teaching, which contains hidden in its depths the essential nature of the truth. Right? Okay. So that's the whole point. All of these similes point to what is secret. What is secret at this point in time? He's preaching the Lotus Sutra. What is secret at this point in time? He's preaching the Lotus Sutra. What is secret at this point in time? Everything that Tentai said, everything that Nagarjuna said, everything that Myolo said, everything that Dingyo said, everything that Nichiren said. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is what he's talking about. What I'm trying to say is that Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is present in the theoretical teaching as well as the essential teaching, second 14 chapters of the Lotus Sutra. And that's the point that Daishonen's trying to make. Okay? So with that now clear, let me finish. Okay. He says, okay, it is, all these similes point to what is secret, what is wonderful. And they all point to Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. It is, as the Lotus Sutra says, only I, Shakyamuni, understand its characteristics. And the Buddhas of the 10 directions do likewise. Buddhas all understand the correct characteristics of the correct teaching. Okay? And then he says, stop, stop. No need to speak. My law is wonderful and difficult to ponder. Therefore, the term secret is used to explain the Ho of Hoban. And the term wonderful is used to explain the Ben. Because in the absence of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which can't come out until the 5th 500-year period, and the original teacher expresses the original teaching, you can't do this. You can only do it theoretically. That's what he's been explaining. Therefore, the term secret is used to explain the Ho of Hoban, and the term wonderful to use to explain the Ben. This is in fact the meaning that underlies this chapter. So it is called the Expedient Means chapter, trying to get you to understanding what's hidden in the depths. All right? On the Words and Phrases, Myolo says the third type of expedient means is characterized as secret and wonderful. Because it can be termed wonderful, it is identical with the truth. The perfect teaching is regarded as identical with the truth. But the three teachings, the Tripitaka, the connecting, and the specific teachings are characterized as not identical with the truth. They're expedient means. Do you get what the point is? If it's identical with the truth, it's not an expedient means. It's the truth. Okay? Therefore, it is in contrast to these non-identical teachings that the Lotus Sutra that the teaching of the Lotus Sutra is characterized as being identical with the truth. It's in comparison to the expedient means teachings that the Lotus Sutra is so different, okay, and is identical with the truth. And therefore, what must be hidden in its depths must also be true, because don't forget, no one's come up with that yet.
Oh.
Okay?
Makes sense.
Him, only in his lifetime. He's now teaching the teaching that includes this Nam Myoho Renge Kyo superior to everything that has preceded it deal. Okay? So I got to go backwards again because I do so much talking. Pardon me. Middle of page 21, where it says, on the words and phrases, where I said it's Myolo talking. Myolo says, the third type of expedient means is characterized. What's different about it? As secret and wonderful. Okay? Because it can be termed wonderful, if it's called wonderful, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be identical with the truth. Right? That's why we got the Lotus Sutra of the wonderful law. Right? Because it can be termed wonderful, it is identical with the truth. The perfect teaching is regarded as identical with the truth. But the three teachings of Shakyamuni, the Tripitaka, the connecting, and the specific teachings are characterized as not identical with the truth. They're expedient means. That's why they're not identical. They're only a way to lead you to the truth. Therefore, it is in contrast to these non-identical teachings that the teaching of the Lotus Sutra is characterized as being identical with the truth. In other words, what it's saying is the purpose of those three teachings, so all that preliminary stuff, was to be able to validate the superiority of the final teachings, of the perfect teaching. When he talked about the Tripitaka, what's the fourth type of teaching? The Tripitaka, the connecting, and the specific. Then you got the perfect, right? Okay. So, continuing on page 21. Is everybody with me, kind of?
Kind of.
Are you? Kind of. Kind of. This is very complicated stuff, guys. That's why I don't pull it out every other month to do it again. All right? The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, so now Nichiren's saying, I think, according to me, the priceless jewel mentioned in the passage of the commentary from Words and Phrases from Tentai is the jewel sewn into the lining of the robe, which is the same as the jewel in the king's knot-tops. They're secret treasures that the people that have them don't know are there. Just like our Buddha nature is a secret, wonderful thing that exists in our life that we don't know exists until we find out that it is there and that it's always been there. And the hired laborer, does everybody remember these similes? What are we talking about? What the jewel sewn in the lining and the top knot and all. Do you remember all that stuff? Look up the 7 parables of the Lotus Sutra in the dictionary. It'll give you a quick review of all of them. They're basically little stories qualifying the Shakyamuni used to be able to qualify the merits of what these people that were on their trip with him to get there, to find the way, to get through the desert, if you will. Okay? So, the higher labor is with the rich man's son. But in the end, persons who slander the law and fail to have faith in it are followers of the provisional teachings outside the body of the truth. So the other three kinds of teachings, that the Tripitaka and the connecting and the specific, are not identical with the truth. These teachings represented by the two types of expedient means known as adaptations of the law, and those that can lead one in. For that reason, such persons cannot recognize that the two jewels or the two persons in the above similes are the same and no different from each other. Now, Nichiren and his followers who recite Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are observers of the secret and wonderful expedient means teachings that are within the body of the truth. Do you understand what that means? Within the body of the essential teaching of Shakyamuni, which is the truth, is the essential truth of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which is the basis of that truth. Okay? And it's a matter of the age and the correct teacher, and the responsibility to communicate that teaching is the difference. All right? Therefore, after the title of the sutra, Myoho Renge-kyo, comes the chapter entitled Expedient Means. That's how we do it, right? Myoho Renge-kyo Hoben Pandai-ni, right? In explaining the statement in Words and Phrases that This is identical with the truth, which is kept secret. In his On the Words and Phrases, Miolo says, Tiantai meant, the perfect teaching is regarded as identical with the truth. Okay? So when we talk about making them into those four separations, the Tripitaka, the connecting and the specific, and the perfect is identical with the truth. What is the perfect? Where is the perfect teaching? It's in little bits everywhere. But where is it primarily? In the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra. All right? All right. And if identical means the perfect teaching, then this must be another name for the Lotus Sutra. Let me say it again. Miolo says the perfect teaching is regarded as identical with the truth. And if identical means perfect teaching, then this must be another name for the Lotus Sutra. So the Lotus Sutra can also be called the perfect teaching. Identical must indicate the truth that ordinary people are identical with the highest level of being, or the Buddha of the true aspect of all phenomena. The Buddha of Nam-myoho Renge. What is the true aspect of all phenomena? What is the true aspect of all phenomena? What is the element of all phenomena that is the same? The original state, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Yes. Okay, perfect refers to the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Though the words identical and perfect are different, they are each another name for wonderful. That all living beings are in fact the Buddha of the true aspect of all phenomena is a wonderful thing, an unfathomable thing. How could that be? There's so many evil people, but this, if they're included in the reality we call life, they're included. But persons who slander the law are at present unaware of this fact. They're ignorant. Therefore, it is referred to as being secret. Only those of us that are enlightened to it are aware that it's real, that it's true, that it exists, and can utilize it. Do you understand? The record also says, the Daishonin says, let me further add that the 3,000 worlds of the Dharma realm, are we all aware of what that is? The 3,000 realms of Buddhahood, which means we got to be talking about actual Ichinen Sanzen. He got to be, when he says the 3,000 worlds of the Dharma realm, he's talking about the 3,000 worlds I'm teaching of Nichiren, okay, of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Maybe the 3,000 worlds of the Dharma realm may be termed secret and wonderful. Secret means strict or without a single exception. It's cause and effect. The 3,000 worlds, every single one of them, exist in one's life. There is nothing more unfathomable than this. Even persons who are called great slanderers of the law will in time come to accept and uphold Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, uphold Myoho Renge-kyo. This is the purpose of the Expedient Means chapter of Lotus Sutra. Kosen Rufu will occur, is what he's saying in saying that. Now that we have entered the latter of day of the law, Nichiren and his followers are carrying out this task correctly, propagating Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. To take the persons and teachings of the sutra preached prior to the Lotus Sutra and lead them into the body of teachings of the Lotus Sutra to validate the elements that are valid in light of the original state of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo that exist in those teachings. Like I said, the perfect teaching exists in little bits all over the place, right? And specifically in the Lotus and Nirvana. This is the purpose of the Expedient Means chapter of the Lotus Sutra. It's to pull all of the chapters together into the ultimate meaning of the entire sutra. This is also termed the attainment of Buddhahood in one's present form. Because when you understand what I just said, you are a Buddha. Only Buddhas understand what I just said. Okay? And I know all of you did. Right? You're all thus come ones. This is also termed the attainment of Buddhahood in one's present form and their consistency from beginning to end. The consistency of the 10 factors. The fact that it all culminates in Buddhahood. Buddhahood is the original state. Again, the Expedient Means chapter represents the 10 worlds, or in another sense, it represents ignorance or darkness. Myoho Renge-kyo, or the Lotus Sutra, stands at the apex of the 10 worlds and at the same time represents the Dharma nature. It exemplifies the principle that earthly desires are identical with enlightenment, that the sufferings of birth and death are identical with nirvana. The perfect teaching is regarded as identical with the truth, refers to the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Wonderful and identical with the truth are synonymous. They mean the same thing. Perfect and wonderful are the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, expressed in a single word. A single word expressing 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Perfect refers to the true aspect of all phenomena. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. A commentary, the annotations on the Great Myolo, Volume 1, explains the word perfect by saying perfect means perfect and interfused, or perfect and full. Perfect and interfused refers to the theoretical teaching. Perfect and full refers to the essential teaching. First 14 chapters, second 14 chapters. You with me? Perfect also refers to the two practices of concentration and insight. Again, it refers to the fact that we are made up of the two elements of body and mind. The expression of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, in a single word, is the secret storehouse of the Eshin school of teachings. In the character in, or perfect, the outer enclosure represents a single moment of life, while the element, literally number, represents 3,000 realms. The principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life is unfathomable. You're not going to figure it out. This wonderful principle was never expounded in the 3 teachings previous to the Lotus Sutra: the Tripitaka teaching, the connecting teaching, and the specific teaching. It's only in the perfect teaching. Therefore, it is called secret. From all this, you should understand that Nam-myoho Renge-kyo represents the expedient means of the single mind of life, the original state. Myoho Renge-kyo represents the 9 consciousnesses, while the 10 worlds represent the levels of the 8th consciousness on down. You should think all these matters over carefully. The Ho of Hoben may also refer to the 10 directions. The 10 directions are the same as the 10 worlds. The Ben of Hoben indicates something that is unfathomable in nature. So as we go over this, and we're reading this now for the 2nd time. How many of you read the orally transmitted teachings on your own, ever? You should try to incorporate that. That's why I'm trying to make it not so, intimidating. It's not so intimidating if you understand what it's saying. Yeah? Anybody got anything after we talked about? Okay, so we'll see each other again next Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you.